Hello and welcome to Saturday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, and a debut on the channel today for shadow-nexus and a puzzle called Public Secrecy, which has a very, very funny rule set. Now this has been recommended to us by the few people who seem to have solved it. I've just looked it up on Logic Masters Germany. 3 people have solved this, and it has no rating. But we have had these recommendations which say that this is basically brilliant. So I'm looking forward to having a go at it with some trepidation. It must be very hard. And I do have a problem in the sense that I've got about an hour and 5 minutes before I have to go out to dinner. So if I can't get this solved in time, that's going to be bad. Anyway, I will come back to it much later on. Anyway, before I read you the rules of shadow-nexus's puzzle, which, I mean, look at this grid. It's got nothing in it at all. What can I tell you about? We've got a new Patreon rewarding coming. This is Riffclown's Sudoku hunt that I've been talking about the last few days. Absolutely fabulous. The Sudoku gallery, which is opening obviously on the 1st of February. Prepare, if you're not a patron already, it definitely will be worth becoming a patron before then in order to participate in the competition and to do those puzzles. So that's coming on 4 o'clock UK time in just a few days time. Oh, actually, and I've only got one birthday to do today, so I'm going to wish Gracelyn a very happy birthday down there in Melbourne, Australia, a city I have visited on a few occasions. Beautiful, beautiful place, lovely people. And Gracelyn, your friend Steve wrote to us and described you as being sharp as a whip and a very keen puzzler. So delighted to hear that. I hope you have an absolutely brilliant birthday today with, of course, plenty of chocolate cake. Now, I don't think there's anything else I need to talk about, so let's get on and have a look at the rules to this puzzle, Public Secrecy. Now, prepare yourselves. This is a rule set that we've never seen before, although there are aspects of it that will be familiar. Normal Sudoku rules apply, so that means we've got to put the digits 1 to 9 once each in every row, in every column, and in every 3x3 box. The green cell is part of a single closed loop, whose path must be determined by the solver. The loop? What's a loop? The loop travels orthogonally from one cell to the next. Orthogonally means it must move to a cell that shares an edge with it. So it can't move diagonally because these two cells are only joined at a point. So an orthogonal movement from here will be to one of those 4 cells. So the loop travels orthogonally from one cell to the next and visits each 3x3 box at least once, eventually returning to the given green cell clue. The loop may touch itself, even orthogonally, but does not cross itself. So this is very unusual in Sudoku. So what that's saying is that the loop could sort of meander over here. Let's draw it in. It could turn. And then normally in Sudoku, you have this rule that the loop can't touch itself orthogonally. But here, which would mean it can't go back here. But here it can. So the loop could, I suppose what we could do is use, so the loop could sort of make that movement. And you can see these squares, the loop has touched itself orthogonally along these cells, which is very unusual, but seems to be allowable under the rules. Consecutive, there is a lot of rules actually. I just scrolled down and I'm not even getting near the end of them. Consecutive digits on the loop differ by at least 5. So the loop's going to operate as a sort of German whispers line. So imagine this square, imagine these 2 squares were on the loop, and imagine this square was a 1. Then this square would have to be at least equal to 6 because it needs to be at least 5 different from 1. So this could be 6, 7, 8 or 9. That's how that's going to work. Let's get rid of that before that leads us astray. Right. 2 publicly secret digits never appear on the loop. In each 3x3 box, the corresponding box number must orthogonally neighbour at least one of the secret digits, or be a secret digit itself, or both. So I think I think this is referring to the number 45, and I think it's saying that 4 and 5 aren't on the loop. which I don't think we can assume that. But I think that's why we've got 45 in the grid, and it's referring to the secret, which is something that I tell only my favourite people. Obviously, the sum of a complete box or complete row of a complete column of a Sudoku is 45. So I think that is what shadow-nexus is getting at. I may be completely hoist by my own petard there, and that may be completely wrong, but that's what I think is being said. Although what we can't do, I mean, actually, think about it, it's made more likely by the fact that you can never put 5 on a German whispers line. Imagine that was a 5, and the loop went to here. What could this digit be? It couldn't be anything. If we go up, we get to 10. That's not a Sudoku digit. If we go down, we get to 0. That's not a Sudoku digit. So that lends credence to the view that might be the public secret. But that's not the end of the rules anyway. So it then says, oh, so hang on. So, well, let's deal with the other rule. It says the corresponding box number must orthogonally neighbour at least one of the secret digits. So imagine that the secret digits were 4 and 5, and we put a 4 here in box 4. Oh, that's a bad example, because it didn't say it could be a secret digit. Hang on, let's try a different one. So let's say down here, this is box 7. Let's put a 7 there. I think if there's a 7 there, there has to be a 4 or a 5 or both in those cells to meet that bit of the rule that it was just talking about. In boxes without any of the 3 given clues, which I think must be these 3 clues, the box number also indicates exactly how many of that number's surrounding cells, including its own cell, are not part of the loop. Now, thank goodness there is an example here. It says, e.g., row 5, column 7 is part of box 6. Yes, it is. That is box 6. So if its digit is also 6, so if this is a 6, then at least one of row 4, column 7, row 5, column 6. Oh, I see, the orthogonal neighbours. Yeah, row 5, column 7, row 5, column 8, and row 6, column 7. So, right, so at least one of these squares, because 6 is the box number, at least one of these squares has to be a secret number. That's really confusing. Okay, but there's more, and 2, because it says, and 2, so let's get rid of the purple. Out of row 4, column 6, row 4. So you're right, I see. It's going to be out of those squares, out of these squares which surround the 6 clue. 3 cells are visited, and the other 6 are not visited by the loop, because out of these 9 cells, 6, because that's the number we're looking at, have to be on the loop. That is a crazy rule. Oh, it then says, note, boxes 1, 2, and 3 contain given clues. Yes, I noticed that. In those boxes, the box number still neighbours at least one secret digit, but the number does not constrain the line. Okay, so what that's saying is, imagine there was a 1 in here. Imagine it was there. Then you don't have to look at the 9 cells around the 1 and say one of those cells is it on the loop or off the loop? One of those cells is not visited by the loop. That doesn't apply in boxes 1, 2, and 3. Although this 1 would have to be next to a secret digit, which if it was a 4, if 4 was a secret digit, it would be if it was there, if you see what I mean. This is quite complicated. Anyway, do have a go. The way to play is to click the link under the video as usual, but now I get to play. Let's get cracking. So my first thought is that surely... Well, am I allowed to assume that 5 is a secret digit? Because 5 cannot go on the loop. It just can't, because the loop is made up of a German whispers line. And you can't put 5 on a German whispers line. Let me just look at the rules again. It says 2 publicly secret digits never appear on the loop. So I guess there could be 2 publicly secret digits that are not 5 that never appear on the loop, and then 5 also never appears on the loop. Although how you would know at the end of the puzzle which which of the 3 digits that weren't on the loop were the publicly secret digits if 3 weren't on the loop. I don't know. So I'm not sure whether I'm allowed to assume that or not then. I very, very strongly suspect 5 is a publicly secret number. In fact, I very strongly expect there to be 7 digits on the loop. But we probably mustn't assume that. So what are we saying? We're saying, we probably need to look at boxes 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9, because we almost know nothing about the top 3 rows, I think, because I don't know what the publicly secret digit is, and the one in this box, although it has to be an orthogonal neighbour of a publicly secret digit, that's only useful once you know what the publicly secret digit is. So maybe actually 4 and 5, look, are going to be... So what does it mean? I mean, let's just think about this. If that's a 4, we're saying that in those 9 cells, 4 digits are off the loop. That's absolutely useless, isn't it? How am I meant to do anything with that? Sorry, I think I haven't understood the rules. Just looking at the rules again. That is weird. I mean, there's nothing you can do. 9 is going to be the most constrained, because 9 is the biggest number. Oh, does that mean I can't put a 9 on the edge here? I'm just wondering about that, because if you do put a 9 on the edge of the grid, I can't surround it with 9 cells that could be off the loop. I could only surround it with 6 cells. Let me just read the rules more carefully. Hang on. In boxes without any of the 3 given clues, the box number, in this case 9, also indicates exactly how many of that number's surrounding cells. Well, there are only 6 cells surrounding it. Yeah, that's wrong. Okay, so you can't put 9 in box 9 on the edge, because it won't see enough digits. So 9 is in one of those squares. Hang on. If I put 9 there, am I not saying that all 9 of those cells are off the loop? And that's going to prevent the loop from going in box 9, that's against the rules. So we've got one of 3 positions for 9s. This feels at least like you can start the puzzle by thinking about this, doesn't it? Now, okay, I've got it. I've got a digit. Okay, so the way I got a digit was I considered whether this could be a 9. And it's very clear it can't, because we can imagine the 9 as just being a block of unvisitable stuff. So the loop, if this was a 9, the loop could not go into any of those squares. But we know that the loop does have to go into box 9, so it could go in here, but it couldn't get out, it can't turn. So what that's telling us by symmetry is that we can eliminate this one and this one, and that's a 9. So at least we've started, and all of this is, this is great, I see what this is doing. Right, so all of this is off the loop. And now, given the loop goes into box 9, all of these are on the loop, because the loop has to get in and out of box 9. In fact, look, we can extend that. All of that is now forced straight away just by the rules. And well, yeah, I see. Okay. I think I do see, actually. Right, so now we need to talk about the secrets of German Whispers lines. Now, I have revealed one of them. It wasn't a public secret, whatever it is, the public secret digits. But the secrets of German Whispers lines include the fact that after the fact you can't put 5 on it, you can then think of any digit along the Whispers line as either being lower than 5 or higher than 5. Now imagine this is lower than 5. What are the properties of these two adjacent digits on the loop now? Well, clearly, neither of them could also be below 5, because if they were, let's think about how far apart we could push these two cells. One of them could be a 1, one of them could be a 4. Well, 1 and 4 are not at least 5 apart. So what you get is this oscillation, and that has to continue along the line. Now, the challenge normally with German whispers lines is to work out which are the high and which are the low digits. But here it's not too bad to do that, I think, because of another secret about German whispers lines, which is the difficulty of putting two particular digits on the line. And those digits are 4 and 6. Now 4 and 6 they're monogamous, they only have one partner. If you put 6 on the line, you can only put 1 into the other positions. And because of the way this line moves, there is no way you can put a 6 anywhere on this line. Similarly, there's no way you can put a 4 anywhere on this line, because 4 can only partner 9 and it's going to cause a repeated digit. So, we can immediately see these three squares by the oscillation. In fact, let's oscillate all the way along the line. All these three squares are either all low or all high. Well, if these were all high, they would be 6, 7 and 8, and one of them would be the naughty 6, and it would be surrounded by double 1, and that would break Sudoku. So, we immediately now know that blue is cold, and, well, for the same reason it can't include a 4, so this is a 1, 2, 3 triple. These squares are a 7, 8 pair, because they must be. They can't include 6. This square is going to touch a 7 on one side of it, so it can't be a no 3 in the corner. We rule out a 3 in the corner as a result of that. We can, well, that can't be 4, because it's a loop. And a loop means that the loop doesn't just come into this cell, it must exit to one of these squares. And if this was 4, this would be 9, and then whichever loop cell extended the loop would also be a 9. So this is a 1, 2, 3 triple in the final column. That logic is going to apply there as well. That's a 1, 2, 3 triple in the bottom row. That square is 7, 8 or 9. That square is 7, 8 or 9. Again, 6. 6 is going to be very hard, and 4 is going to be very hard to put on the loop. Let's just think about how you could do it. You could do it in a cell like that, maybe. If the loop did that, and you put double 9 across the boundary, something like that, which would be ludicrous, but it might work. Right, so now I guess we have to think about, well, yeah, I was going to say we have to think about 8 in box 8, and that's not such a bad idea, is it? Because this can't be an 8 for the same reason that none of these could be a 9. 8 here, you can't surround it with 8 non-loop cells, you could only surround it with 6 non-loop cells, so that's not 8. That can't be 8, because the surrounding cells include two loop cells. Yes, okay, I can extend that to that one. If that was 8, then out of these squares, how many are loop? And there mustn't be more than 1, but this has to extend, and it's either going to extend there or there. So there's no way that's an 8. So 8's definitely in one of these three. It's probably here, because so much of this is already non-looped. Let me think about this. If that is an 8, well, if that's an 8, exactly one of these squares is on the loop, which couldn't be that one, because it would be cul-de-saced. So either that one or that one would be on the loop. Okay, I'm going to do something else now, because I can't see how to do that. But there is another property to orthogonally moving loops that I think might be interesting here, and that relates to the bishop's move. So what I'm thinking is, in fact, it doesn't work even. It's hang on. What I was going to say, I was going to claim this couldn't be on the loop, because I could see if it was on the loop, it would have to be a low digit and it would have to be a 4. But then I realised actually I could make it 4 if I surrounded it with double 9. So yeah, but the point I wanted to make is, if we this is a great example. Row 2, column 8, I can work out whether this is a high or a low number, because the loop moves orthogonally from cell to cell. Obviously, if we think about this square, row 5, column 9, it's low. Therefore, the next digit on the loop, whether it's here or here, is high. And imagine this square was on the loop. How many steps would it take to get from this cell to this cell? Even if we went a circuitous route, it would always be an even number of steps. So this cell, if it was on the loop, would always be low. And therefore that, well, we can see, if we sort of draw bishop's moves like in chess, you can see that to get to this cell, you're on the same bishop's colour as this, so that must be a low digit, and a 1, 2 or a 3. It's not 4, but I suppose it couldn't have been 4 because that would have required 2 9s in those squares. Right. I'm a bit puzzled as to how I'm going. I can do this. I could do the same thing with 7, can't I? That I've done with 8 and 9. A 7 on the perimeter won't work because it'll only see 6 cells. Now, wow, I don't know actually. One of these is a 3, and that will be surrounded by 8 and 9, because 3 only has 2 natural partners, 8 and 9, in terms of whispers lines. Okay, so one of these will be a 3, one of these will be a 3, and that will be surrounded by an 8 and a 9. And that's that one. Right, so how could this be a 3? Sorry, this is obvious actually, I just didn't think of it until now. If that's 3, that has to be 9, and there must be an 8 in one of those squares, which there cannot be, so that's not 3. Which means this is a 1, 2 pair, it means this is 3, it means this has to be flanked by 8 and 9, not 7 ever. So that's going to do some things, look. 7 must be flanked by a 1, 2 pair, this is a 3. That's not 7. There's a sort of floating 8, 9 pair. One of these is 8 or 9, and it's the opposite of this, obviously. 9 is in one of those 3 squares by Sudoku. 7. That 7 is knocking a couple of digits out. So the 7 is in one of these squares. So which is going to be more problematic? That one maybe? Let's have a think about that. So if that was 7, out of these squares we could only have 2 loop squares. Well, I mean there are certain patterns I can see will break. Like, you know, if all of those were non-loop. Well, it depends. I mean, the loop can't go all the way along the bottom row, because there would need to be a 5 on the loop. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. My brain isn't very tickled by the possibility of trying to whittle that down, I have to say. 8 is in one of these squares. Well, that's quite interesting for this box, in the sense that that's dealing with an awful lot of the high digits. So there can't be 2 loop squares in the bottom row here, because they'd have to be 6, or the high digit down here would have to be a 6. 6 can only go with 1 on both sides of it. So a 6 down here would necessitate a 1 in row 9, which would clash. So there aren't 2 cells down here on the loop. And in fact, the position that 6 would occupy, which would be this one, by bishop's colour again, So it would have to be the same. So if this was trying to be on the loop, you couldn't put a 6 here on the loop. It would have the wrong polarity. So that cell is definitely not a loop cell, which means the corner is definitely not a loop square. Yeah, hopefully that's clear. What I'm saying is, if you want to make that on the loop, it's got to be a high digit. It can't be 7, 8 or 9, so it has to be 6. It would therefore be flanked by double 1 in the box, which won't work. Yeah, it does feel difficult. It feels difficult either way, actually. It feels probably easier if that's 7. Got to make sure the loop can get into box 7 and out again. Let's actually just think about that for a moment. So if this is 7, if this is 7, exactly 2 of these digits are allowed to be. Oh, look, that works. It could do that. Hang on, I've noticed something else though. What I've noticed is this now can't be on the loop, can it? Because now I do have a 9 in row 9. Yeah, that's interesting. So this square, if it was on the loop, it would be a 4, because it would have to be low by bishop's colour, and that will necessitate, it would be a corner of the loop. It would require double 9 here by monogamy, and that 9 will clash, so that square is off the loop. So now, how on earth do you do this? Oh, I see. Okay, so if the 7 was here, we look at these 9 squares. We can have 2 loop squares within this 9, but those 2 loop squares have to be, well, they have to allow me to get the loop in and out of box 7. So it has to be these 2, doesn't it? These would have to be non-loop. Sorry, these would have to be loops, so the loop's going to have to do that. Now, is that a problem? I've no idea. So can the loop do that is the question. If it can't do that, I don't think that can be a 7, because I just don't think you can get the loop into box 7. Now, if the loop did this, what do we know about the polarity of the loop? We know that these 2 will be low, these 2 will be high. Oh, that's rotten, that works. That probably means it's correct. Oh, Maverick coming by very low. I've got my window open today. First time in a long time, so sorry if you can hear the aeroplane noise. Oh, that's really annoying. I think, well, that looks very plausible to me. And I suspect, actually, if we're in a world where the 7 is further across to here, I think it'll be easier still. Because then actually, I'm going to think about that as well now. Because now I've still got the same problem, which is I've got to get the loop in and out of box 7, with only 2 of these cells being allowed to be green. That feels... I mean, obviously the loop could come down in here, so it could do something like that with these 2 being green. That might be all it can do. Because, I mean, you can't do things like make those 2 green. Because the loop, although it could come down here, it can never get out, because all of these would be out, or grey. So perhaps if it's 7 here, you have to do those 2 only. And then so the loop would do this version of the world. And in terms of in terms of bishop's moves, these 2 would be high. Oh, that's difficult. That would be a 6. Oh, but double 1. No. Wow, that's vicious. That is vicious. So I think the only, if this is 7, the only high digit this can be, and I think it would be high, it would be by bishop's colour, this would be 6. That would require double 1 here. That would fix this as 2 and make this a 1. Oh, I've just noticed something else. I don't know what the resolution of that is. I think that might work. But I've noticed something else that I'm going to tell you about. And that is, because I know there's a 7 in one of these, and I know that's a 7, by Sudoku, that is a 7. But that could absolutely be on the loop, couldn't it? It's got the right... Well, not only... could it be on the loop? I think it has to be on the loop. Because the loop either goes into the 7 or it goes here, where it would have to be a high digit, which would have to be 6 in the middle of a box. And that's going to be surrounded by double 1, so that's very straightforward. The loop does that. But hang on. If the loop does that, surely that rules out one of those things we were just thinking about. Let's go back and have a think about this being a 7. Because if this is a 7 now, and we know that this square is definitely green, how do I can't do it. I can turn one more, apart from this one, I can turn one of these 8 squares green, and I've got to get the loop into and out of box 7. There is no way. There is no way. I mean, you can't do it. You need at least sort of, even though we're having tight turning circles here, this will not work. So that's right. So that's actually, it's not as difficult as I thought once I got this 7 in place. So in fact, I think that is not 7. I think that is 7, which means we need to consider those squares. This is a low digit, which is a 1, 2. Oh no, it's a 1 or a 2 because it's next to 7. Oh, so this was the version, wasn't it? I mean, there's so many cells you can just immediately rule out. I mean, it can only be these 2. That's the only way we can possibly do this. We've got to get the loop into box 7. And we've got to turn 7 of these grey. Or we can't come in and out here. We're going to require far too many green cells. So I think the only way we can do it and get in and out is with these squares. So these all become grey. That square is high. But that could be 6. Okay, so that's 6, 8 or 9. This square is low. And that one, no, that one can't be 4. I was thinking that one might be able to be 4, but the 9 here prevents that. So that is 1, 2 or 3. And the loop, let's draw a bit of loop in, because the loop is going like this. In here, and then it's coming straight back out again. Probably into an 8, actually. Oh no, could that be a 6? I don't believe this. I think that could be a 6. Well, in fact, that can't be an 8, can it? Because if it's an 8, we need 8 grey cells in there, and there's clearly 3 green ones, so that's not 8. In fact, no, because this is definitely green. Right, so the 8 is being hypothecated to the corner of this box. One of these squares exactly is green. It's not that one, because we can never get there. If these 2 were both grey, this would be blocked off. So that's grey, definitely. One of these is green. It can't be this one, because if that's grey and that's green, that's a cul-de-sac. We've built our own cul-de-sac. So that's grey, that's green. This has to come up here. But now the challenge is to make this a high digit, and it's got to be 6, because it can't be 7, 8 or 9. And if that's 6, that's 1, that's 1, that's 2, that's 1, that's 2. I mean, this is a situation where I could well have broken the puzzle, to be honest. Because, oh, I have broken it. Bother. no, okay. When I put the 1 here, that was looking at the 6 and assuming these two were connected on the loop. They're not. This one, the 6 is connecting to that cell on the loop, so that needs to be the 1. That's a 2. That's a 1. That's a 2. That's a 1. Now, has this broken the puzzle? Yes, that's broken the puzzle as well. Because now I've got 2 1s in row 7. Oh no. Hang on, what have I done wrong here? That I felt that I was being logical. Let me think. Let's back up a bit. So, is this 8? The 8 can't be there. So is anything that feels correct? So all of that feels correct. Have I got the polarity of the line wrong? No, that looks right. That's 6. These both become 1s. That becomes 2. That becomes 1. That becomes 2. Hang on, let's just try that. Am I just messing up my Sudoku here? I don't think I am. Yeah, I do. I get 2 1s here. So that is wrong somehow. I don't understand. Problem is, if that's wrong, that could mean I've really, really made a bad deduction, because certainly this part of it doesn't feel wrong, does it? Let's go back a bit further then. So is there really... Oh, I've had another thought. Right. Right. Why did it have to do that? Why did I assume it? Why couldn't it have done that and just clipped the edge of box 7? There's a thought, isn't it? Right, that's probably what we've done wrong. So, let's go back to here. And let's see if we can logically deduce. Well, maybe now, before we decide on which 2 cells we're snipping out of this. Although again, I'm going to claim it's either this domino or this domino that must be clipped. So this is always on the loop. And that is definitely a low digit, although we don't know its nature. And it can't be 4 still. Probably. Yeah, because it's either this domino or this domino. And this is always a corner. Oh, that's interesting. Is that true? Is that always a corner? Okay, so here's my thinking here. If I chop these out, then this is grey, so this is a corner, and this must be on the loop. And if I chop these 2 out, then this is grey, and this is still a corner, and that's on the loop. So this is always on the loop, but the problem is that I still don't think this can be an 8. Because if this is 8... No, it can't be 8. It just can't be. So that's on the loop and is always 6. And it always connects to this square, so that's always 1. Which always gives me a 2, 1, 2, 1 configuration. But now we can use this to our advantage, because what we can say is there's still the possibility here. We can now see, in fact, that if we were to make this grey, we're going to run into the problem that we've just described, aren't we? Well, although, I mean, I can see how this is going to work now, but let's go back to 8. This can't be 8 because there would be 2 greens in its region. So that is 8. We know that this is impossible to reach. Oh, well, actually, let's just be careful with that. Let's draw the loop in. The loop's definitely doing that. I mean, is it possible that the loop does that? Well, no, it's not possible, because that's definitely going to break this cell, because only one of these is green. So how could that be green? No, I don't think so. Well, no, it can't be. I mean, it can't be for many reasons, but let's take one of the reasons. It can't be for many reasons, but it can't be high. So it's definitely off the loop. This is a 3, 4, 5 triple, in fact. And the only one of those, no, none of those can be on the loop, clearly. Because the only things we could put on the loop were things that were on the correct bishop's colour. So that's going to be this digit. But if that's on the loop, that's not on the loop. That's a corner, and 3 can't be, or 4 can't be next to 6. So nothing works there. That's very clear. The loop must do this. It must do this. But we still have to, well, okay. And we can see if we make this connection on the loop, that's going to put a 1 in this square. So that is not a connection of the loop. So this is a corner of the loop, which must now look like that. And that allows us to note, using the 7, that this can't be out, because the loop would strand there as it couldn't go anywhere. So this is now proving that I think this is green. And therefore, anything purple can turn grey. The loop goes up to here, finds a high digit, which can be anything, actually. Although no, it can't be 6, because the extension's either here or here, and neither of these squares can be 1. So that is 7, 8, or 9. These two are definitely on the loop. I don't know whether these connect to each other, but this digit is 2, 3, or 4. It can't be 4, because it's either going this way. This would be 9, and that 9 would seize both of those squares. So that is 2 or 3. This is high, and is 7, 8, or 9. That's a 7, 8, 9 triple in row 6. This is low and is 1 or 3. It can't be 4 because the loop must extend from here. And again, that's going to cause the double 9 problem. Gosh, this is really cool. This is really cool, this puzzle. It's very interesting. Now, what are those squares? No, that's okay. I thought I'd broken it, but I don't. I've got a 3, 4, 5, 6 quadruple. So these squares are 2, 8, and 9. That 6 is knocking itself out of here. So this is from 3, 4, or 5. These squares are 4, 5, and 6. So that square is a naked single, I think. We'll take it. I don't know if it's right. It feels right by Sudoku. There's a 5 there, so that's a 4. That's a 5. We get left with some dominoes and some questions to answer about where on earth do we go from here. I suppose I can just grey the 5 in, can't I? That must be. Oh, actually, the 5 is doing things on Sudoku. Oh, that's good. I got quite a lot done as a result of that. Okay. So the rest of this column is all high digits now. That feels interesting. And what do we do with that? I have got this 7, 8, 9 triple in row 6 to think about as well. I'm not sure. Do we have a way of knowing? Oh, 5 is over here, and that's going to be the special digit, isn't it, in this box? So can that be 5? Yeah, that's interesting. If that's 5, doing our little trick, you can see all 4 of those are green, so all 5 of those would be grey. Right, and that doesn't work for a lovely reason, actually. I can immediately rule that out. And that's because, how do you get the loop into box 1 now? And the answer is, well, you could get it in there, but you couldn't get it out again. Because to get it in and out of box 1, the only passageway is through these 2 cells, but these have the same polarity. They're both high. So which one's going to be correct? That would be correct. That's on the right colour. So we could come along here. We could visit box 1, but then eventually, because it's a loop, we have to come out again. So we're going to trot along here and come to this square, which would need to be low by Bishop's colouring to be on the loop. And it couldn't be. These would both be high. So this doesn't work. Isn't that gorgeous? So that means this square is the 5. And now we're looking at this arrangement of digits for our purplification. In fact, maybe what I'll do is maybe instead of that, I'll just ring it like that, so I don't sort of disturb all the colouring of the world. So that 5 must be off the loop. All 5s are definitely off the loop by nature. Right, this is gorgeous. This is absolutely gorgeous, because now I've done it. Now I know sort of how the loop moves, because I can use this trick again. Right, the thing to realise is what would happen if this loop cell doesn't go here. Let's say it doesn't go here, so it goes to visit up there. Well, that leaves us in exactly the same position, doesn't it? Actually, maybe that's wrong. That might... No, it's not wrong. I don't think it is wrong. I mean, I've got these 2 loop ends here. But if this one does deviate up here, the next movement of this is either to close it immediately or to go up here and then go there, which closes it immediately. And we get the same problem. We've got to get in and out of box 1 from over here, and you can't do it because of these 2 squares. That's gorgeous. That is gorgeous. Yeah, I am convinced that is logical, and that means this has to turn in here. So it has to get in here now so that we don't have a problem. Oh, so that needs to be that colour. Now we mustn't close the loop here, because that's going to make a very little loop. So we have to go there. Now we have to go there, and that's become just an ordinary loop cell. I've just had another good thought, actually. When I say another good thought, I don't mean that I've been having good thoughts a lot, but I have just had an interesting thought. Right, but let's just calm ourselves down on that. 2, 3, 4 there. Now that's just 8 or 9, that one, because it sees 6 and 7. Not sure what I do with that. Well, okay, so now this 5. Well, that square's got to be grey, because it can't be visited by the loop. That's effectively become a cul-de-sac. So here, yeah, there's some things we can do, because 2 of these 3 cells are grey. Well, it can't be those 2, because that's going to create a cul-de-sac, so that's got to be grey. I don't think so. One of those is grey and one of them's green, but I can't create another cul-de-sac to do that. I'm going to tell you my other thought any moment now, because I'm running out of our good ideas as to what else to do. I mean, suspect I have to think about 6 over here. Well, there's a little point about 6 I can see. That can't be 6. Because the only 6 cells it would see would be those. They'd all have to be grey, and that one isn't grey. So that can't be 6, which means 6 is in one of those squares in this box, and therefore in column 9, 6 is in one of these squares. Which is probably not... It's probably not fascinating. Yeah, okay, here was my other thought. Is now I can audit, can't I, which digits I've had on the loop. And I'm going to be able to narrow down. No, I know. Ah, I've done it. It's 4 and 5. Oh, that's lovely. Okay, so I now know the secret digits. And I knew them at the start. Well, I didn't know them. I've strongly suspected them, but they are 4 and 5 now because look at the digits I definitely have put on the loop. I've put 1, 2 and 3 on the loop. I've put 7, 8 and 9 on the loop, and I found a 6. So it's only 4 and 5 that are not on the loop. So what does that mean? That means that 4s and 5s, well, 4 and 5 in these two boxes are just, they're self-reliant. They complete themselves, don't they? I think that's what it said. It said something like, if you're the secret digit, you don't have to touch a secret digit. Let me just see. 2 publicly secret digits never appear on the loop. In each 3 by 3 box, the corresponding box number must orthogonally neighbour at least one of the secret digits, or be the secret digit, or be both. So the 4 in this box is just automatically doing it. The 5 is automatically doing it. Let's check the 9. The 9 is next to a 5, so that's fine. The 8 is next to both, which is fine. The 7 is not yet next to a 4 or a 5, so that is a 5, I think. I think that's right. Feels right by the rules. Slightly worried about that. That's actually quite good because that gives me a 5 here. That gives me a 5 in one of 2 places in box 3. This square is not a 5 anymore. I've got a horrible feeling that might have short-circuited all of my thoughts around the 7 here. How am I doing for time? I've got 13 minutes to finish the puzzle. Is that likely? No, but we shall persevere. Okay. So I tell you one thing I can do that's fairly straightforward. I know which of those digits, there must be one of these digits must be on the loop, because eventually this loop segment has to get out of this top left-hand side of the grid. And I can work out by bishop's moves, it's got to be on the same bishop's colour as the high digit. So that is definitely on the loop, and that cannot be on the loop. And now I've created a little tunnel that this has to go through, which means this can't be 6. So these 2 digits are from 1, 2 and 3 by Sudoku, and that can't be 1. That's given me a 2, 3 pair in that column. This is brilliant. This puzzle is absolutely brilliant. Now I've not put 4, 8 and 9 into these squares, so this is from 4, 8 and 9. And now, well, that 4 is not on the loop now, is it? Either. That's probably going to be relevant. If that's 4, I'm allowed to put 4 on the loop. I am, because even though it's a public digit, that yes. See, in my brain, I'd wipe that out. But well, no. Okay, that is not on the loop. I'd wiped it out because I'd identified it in my brain as the public naughty digit. But that's not what wipes it off the loop. No, it is. It is. That is the rules. That digit cannot appear on the loop. Sorry. I was then going through my brain and going, no, it can't be on the loop because it would have double 9 around it. That is also true, but it literally cannot be on the loop. So that cannot be a 4, can it? I think it can't. Its 4 is just simply not allowed to be on the loop. So that is a 2. I've just seen it sees a 3. And that does nothing, of course, because, well, it does something for the next digit, which now must be 7, 8 or 9. That's not really restricted. Oh, that's a 6. I just noticed by Sudoku. That's not 2. Golly gosh, there's lots of interesting things nearly happening, aren't there? So presumably I am meant to think about where does 4 go in this box here. So 4 is in one of those 4 cells. Now wherever it lives, it has to be... Ah, right. That is not a 4. Because if that is a 4, of those 6 cells, 4 of them are grey, and they would be those, which means 2 of these 2 would be definitely green, but that square would be a 4, because it's the only low digit that's available on the correct bishop's colour. So if I put 4 there, I have to put 4 there, and that breaks for lots of reasons. 2 4s in a box don't work, and you can't put a 4 there because it would be surrounded by double 9. So that is not 4. So the 4 is up in one of 3 places now. Right, where should we go and try and eliminate next? If that is a 4, then we know it's off the loop, so that becomes this. But then of those squares, 4 cells are that. In fact, that becomes green if we do that, doesn't it? Because of the 5 clue. So if that's 4, let's sort of just pencil this out. That definitely becomes green. That's a corner. And now, that would have to be green. That would have to be grey. That doesn't work either. It's the same problem. So it's a little bit harder to see, but let me try and show you. Once we're in this world and this becomes green, the point is that this 4 clue needs to have 4 greys around it, and that's going to make that grey. And this square simply cannot be on the loop, because it's going to be a 4 by bishop's colouring, and it's going to be surrounded by 2 9s in the same box. So this is also a problem. That is not 4. So the 4 is definitely over this side, which means this is 4 and this is 5, which means there's a 5 up here. Oh, I thought I'd seen something else as a result of that. If that's a 5, you can't send the loop round the top of the 4. If that's a 5, it's like a wall. This has to go through there. Hang on, I've got to be careful here. I made this grey because I made it a 4. I don't think we had that before, because I was just looking at that thinking, hang on, why haven't I extended this to here, given this is grey? But I think I didn't extend it to here because I don't know whether this is grey or not. So let me think that through again. If that's a 5 and is grey, that is a wall. That is grey. You have to go there. You have to go there. You can't go there. So you'd go. So it'd be something like that. Would be how the loop had to move. And then, wow, that looks very difficult to me. I can't see how that works. Oh, hang on. No, that would work with a 4 here. That would have 4 around it. Bother. I thought that didn't work for a moment, but now I can see. I think if that's 4, it might work. Okay, what about the other way then? If that's 5, well then it's fascinating in a different way, because if that's 5, we know it's off the loop. It's the grey 5, and then we've got to go all the way across the top. And then by bishop's colour, these are going to be a 1 2 3 triple. Ah, this looks very difficult. But can I instantly disprove this? That's the next question. I haven't quite seen how. One of those would then be, which would have to be that one. That would be 7, 8 or 9. 6 in the column would go there. I mean, it's incredibly forcing. I'm not sure. I'm not sure, and it would feel bifurcation to do that because I can't visualize it. I mean, it's incredibly forcing. It puts a 3 here. It puts a 1-2 pair here. But none of those things seem to break the world. Might be wrong, but I can't see how they're breaking the world. These two would have to be high digits, but could be, I think. So these are both high. That's off the loop and is a 6, I think. This is on the loop and is 7, 8 or 9. But that all looks like it might work. And then this square becomes on the loop. Oh, bobbins, I can't quite disprove it. Can't quite disprove it. So I mean, whichever one of these is 5 is hugely powerful. But can we do something with the 4s then? I worked out that 4 could work in one situation, didn't I? That's 4. Or maybe it's about which of these is grey as well. Maybe that's a different way of approaching it. Let me think about that being grey, because that forces this to be green by the count on this 5, and that forces that pattern. Now, is there a reason that this is broken? This would be a 1 or a 3. We know this couldn't be on the loop, because that would cause this and break both 4s. Whichever of these 4s is correct, it's got to see a lot of grey real estate around it. So these two would both be grey in this situation. Oh, this does look difficult now. Let's just play this out in our brains. So we'd be in this situation. And now you can see, because one effect of this is to force this pattern. There would have to in fact be that pattern, so that we could avoid the 5 that would inevitably be here. This would be a 3. I think we're in the same visualization territory we were before. This is a 1-2 pair. That would be a 2. This would be a 1. Now, which one of these 4s works? This 4 might work if that was in. And if that was in, if that was 4, that couldn't work, could it? That would not work, being 4 in this version of the world. Because it's then off the loop, this is on the loop, but that 4 sees 3 around it. So this would be 4, this would be green. Now, why, brain, can you not see what's wrong with that? We've got two very, very close things. I'm not going to finish the puzzle by my 5 o'clock deadline, but I don't want to leave it at this point. I want to overcome this hurdle. Once I've overcome it, I can step away from the puzzle knowing that I'll come back to it without being at a massive impasse. So I do just want to try and think this through and try and understand what, if anything, is the problem here. I mean, it's not going to be... Oh my goodness, it is. Oh goodness me, that's very clever and very, very unexpected, actually. Wow. Okay. Throw a Oh, that's really clever. That's really clever. Right, we can get rid of all of this bifurcation, or whatever you want to call it. And instead, what I'm going to do is ask the question. Let's get rid of all of this. I'm going to ask the question, is it possible for this? Well, the way to do it is to say, is it possible for this to be 5? That's where I'm going to go with this. And the point is, I could visualize this, but I couldn't see the consequence of it until I remembered there's another rule that we have to obey regarding the 1 in this box. Now, how are we going to do that? Because if this is 5, we know that all of those squares are green. And by Sudoku, well, we know this is a 1, 2, 3 triple. And we know that's the 3. So we have a 1, 2 pair here. Now, one of these digits is a 1 and needs to be orthogonally adjacent to a 4 or a 5. Well, we've got 4 and a 5 here. So neither of these can be adjacent to a 4 or a 5 in their box. So the only way this could possibly work is if this square is a 4. But this square cannot be a 4, can it? Well, this is the part of it that I'm slightly less clear about in my brain. I don't think it can, because I think that this has to then come out here. Yeah, it doesn't work. God, it's quite a long sequence to think through, but it doesn't work because we've got too many things to deal with here. The first is that this 4 has 2 greens around it, so all of these need to be grey. So the way the loop closes is that these would have to be both green, and that's going to break the 5 clue. We know one of these is grey, one of these is green. Good grief. Oh, in fact, there's another way of seeing that, which is that you can't, there's not another low digit in the column. Wow. Wow. So it's actually broken as a result of the orthogonal neighbour rule. And what that's going to mean when I come back to the puzzle is that this can't be 5, this is 5, and it's grey, and that means none of those squares can be on the loop. The loop has to come through this little gaggle here. This has to be grey, this has to be green, this now has to be green. We know it doesn't ever come here because that would have to be a 4. By low digit parity on here, and would be surrounded by double 9. So that is grey, that is green. Oh, could we wiggle there? Probably not, but I don't know. Oh, hang on, now I need one of these 4s to work. That 4 cannot work, it sees 3 greens, so that can't be 4. That's going to have to be 4, and that's, in order for that 4 to have 4 greys around it, that's going to have to be grey, which means that now is definitely grey. And there we go, I've figured out the top of the grid look. I've got that, so when I come back next time, I can work with that. Back soon. Right, what should have probably only been a couple of seconds for you is several hours for me. I've been to London and back again. I've had dinner. I may have enjoyed a tipple or two while out. And I thought I'd get back and get straight into the puzzle. And I haven't got a clue what I was doing. So let's have a look. I was apparently just doing some stuff in column 4, but I remember I'd made a breakthrough, hadn't I? I'd managed to get the shape of the loop in the top corner, so I haven't even labelled the low digits now. So these obviously have to be well, that digit is low and it's not 1, 2 or 4, so that's 3. Now 3 has to be next to 8 and 9 on the whisper. This square looks like it's 1 or 3. I say this with trepidation because I'm not certain. I'm just not missing the absolutely obvious. Okay, and that digit, well, that digit's also 8 or 9 actually, because I think that can't, well, it has to be high by polarity and it can't be 6 or 7. So we get a 2 at the bottom of the grid here. Oh, We've got an 8, 9 pair in this column, so we get a 7 here. We don't have a 7 here. We get an 8, 9 pair here, a 6 or a 7 here, but that's not on the loop. So we probably can't do very much with that. Oh, where's 3? In box 4? There. Oh, that doesn't help me. Okay, so I still got 8, 9. Well, I know where 1 is in column 2. And these squares, at least I can pencil mark with 2, 6 and 7. And so far, this is exactly the sort of gentle reintroduction to the puzzle I was hoping for. Now, these squares are 1, 8 and 9. Ah, but I've got an 8, 9 pair there. So this is a 1. This is an 8, 9 pair. So that means I've not put 6 into this box, which means that's a 7. Beautiful. These are not 6s. Now, that's something we're going to have to think about soon, surely. The 6 in box 6 is one of the clever digits, isn't it? That has an effect. Do I know that digit? No. Well, if my pencil marks are right, I've got a 5 to place in box 3. So that's interesting. If I'd hung around earlier, I could probably have done all that in about 2 or 3 minutes. I'm still not finishing the puzzle, am I? And I would have missed my train. I got to the station with about 4 minutes to go. So no, it wouldn't have been feasible, I don't think, to, even if I was rushing to finish the puzzle earlier on. Right, so we've now got, well, that's 6 by Sudoku, because it can't be 7, and that's 7. So this 6 is getting very constrained. And these squares are 2, 3, and 4. And that can't be 3, and that doesn't have a restriction. Right. Oh, we have to make sure, don't we, that... Oh, look. Okay, so the 1 in box 1 is next to 5 and 4, so there's no problem there. Wherever we put the 2 here, it's got to be next to 5 or 4. So, if that's a 2... Yeah, if that's a 2, it will be next to 4 in one of those squares. But if the 2 is over here, well, then we might have to borrow the 4 from box 3. I was about to say that 5 might have to be next to a 4 there, but 5 is itself a secret digit, so we can't use that trick. So probably, well, actually, hang on. Wherever you see a 5 in the grid, or a 4, they are axiomatically now not loop. So we can't have the loop going into row 1, column 9, because that will be a cul-de-sac now. This is a cul-de-sac now, so that's not on the loop. That is... No, that's not a cul-de-sac. The other thing I was thinking, though, is that had that only had high digit options, that would have been unavailable. But by bishop's move, it is meant to be low if it's on the loop. So we can't rule that out. I've got a 1, 2, 3 triple look in row 2. So that's not very useful, but that's not a 2. So that digit is high, and it's 6, 7, or 8. 9 is in one of these two. There is an 8, 9 pair here. No, that's not helpful, is it? 7 is in one of these squares. I mean, I will pencil mark that in case it proves useful. 3 is in one of those 2 squares. And we know this is loop. Oh, hang on, and it's the oh no, but it's the 3 in this box doesn't tell us how many non-loop cells we have. So maybe it's the 6 down here. If that's a 6, that's just totally wrong. Well, that's very helpful. If that's a 6, it's totally wrong, isn't it? That's got 8 non-loop cells around it. So that can't be 6, that must be 6. And now that means this has to be unlooped, which means the loop does go up to here. That square must be 8 or 9 because it can't be 6 or 7. That gives me a pair in the column and a pair in the row. So these two squares are from 1, 2, 4. Well, actually, as is that one. Now I think about it, that can't be 1. Now, has that done something clever? What else is that 6 meant to be? That's, oh no, that 6 is next to 5. It's almost worth, maybe I'll do that actually. It's almost worth just showing when they're done. That one's done in and of itself. The 4 is done in and of itself. The 7 is touching a 5. The 8 is touching a 4 and a 5, but I only need to mark 1. The 9 is touching a 5. The 1... Well, the 1's touching a 4 and a 5. The 2 we don't know yet. And the 3, well, if the 3 was here, it would be touching a 5. No, okay. That probably isn't where we go next. What we could do, though, is we can extend this. That's all forced. Okay. I don't know. Oh, golly gosh. I was going to say that that can't be on the loop. Because to be on the loop, it would be a low digit. It would be a 4, and then it would have to have 9 on both sides of it. But actually, that cell there might be able to have 9 on both sides of it, providing it did that. That's rotten, isn't it? So how are we going to actually disambiguate this, what the loop does next? I am not sure. Sorry, I really am not sure. 7 is in one of these two squares. So if 7 was looped, it would be next, that would have to be a 1 or a 2. Well, I suppose unless the loop was doing funny business like this. Oh, the loop can't do that, actually. Ah, the loop can't be here. Because to be here, it would be cornered, and these two squares are the same polarity, so that's off the loop. The same is true of these two squares, actually, isn't it? That can't be a corner of the loop. Because again, we've got the same polarity. So that feels interesting. Now, can that be a corner of the loop? It would have to be 7. This would be in and would be a 1 or a 2. And unfortunately, that looks very plausible. What about that one? That would be a 7 and this would be a 2. And again, I get a triple in the column. Or it could just go straight on, I suppose. I mean, that couldn't be 6 in that instance, but it could be 7 or 8. This would be 6, but that's not on the loop, so that's fine. Okay, so maybe I've got to pencil mark these digits. These are a 4-6 pair. Let's put that in and see. Ah, so that's not 6. Well, we already sort of knew that wasn't likely to be 6. Now, what do we do with that? Where is 9 is in one of those two squares. Again, both of those squares that the 9 can go into are on the correct bishop's colour, so that's very unhelpful for whether or not this can be a 4. Is there some other rule that I've not remembered? That is very possible. Boxes 1, 2 and 3. So if this is 3, that has to be 4, I think. Is there a reason this can't be a 3-4 pair? Don't think so. And if that's 3, it's next to the 5, so that's fine. Yeah, I suppose the corollary of that is that if that's 4, that has to be 3 in order to fulfill the rule. Oh, so maybe it is the 2 in this box, is it? That's not 7. In fact, that's not 7. I hadn't seen that. Now I've got an 8-9 pair and I've got a 7 here. Ah, sorry. There we go. There is something at least. So this is a 6. Now that gives me what? It gives me a 6 at the top of the grid there by Sudoku. Aha, that's perfect. So now this being a 6 is the wrong polarity. So we have to shuffle in. We get 2 more greens. That's definitely off the loop. This square, well, that could still perhaps be 4. I don't believe it. Now, whichever one of these is 3, it is the correct polarity. That's a, oh, sorry, that's a 6. So that's a 6 and that's a 4. That's not 4 anymore. So, okay, so we need 1, 2, 3 and 9. So this is 1, 2 or 9, but it's on the loop and has to be high. Oh, so that is 9. Fine, that's good. Now this is 8, and I think that's going to do loads. 8, 9, 9, 8 by Sudoku, 9, 8, 9, 8, 4, 9, and... oh, that's not doing... what about... oh yeah, more. There's more 8s and 9s to be done. Okay. That's one more here, or at least one more there. Where is 8? Yes, 8's got to be here. That's off the loop, because it would be the wrong bishop's colour. So this is off the loop because it's cul-de-saced. That's now a corner. So, well, I was going to say I've closed the loop, but I suppose it's possible the loop would do some rinky-dink down here. In which case, this would have to be a 7. This has to be a 1 or a 2 now. It can't be 3 and be next to 7. So the 3 goes up there. This square is 2 or 7. Oh, that still seems possible. Now, if the loop did dip down, this would be a 1 or a 2. I'm sure this is quite straightforward at this point. I'm just... I'm a little bit worse for wear. Okay, so... let's try and figure this out. Come on, brain. Surely I must know what that is. Yeah, I do. The 7 there tells me that's got to be a 2. So that's a 3. Oh, that's not the way we wanted that to go, actually. Because that's very much suggested this is going to be a straight line. I've got 1, 2 and 7 here. So that's a 4. That's a 3. That's a 4. This is a 1, 2 pair. Wow. Wow, actually, hang on. This still looks like it can do this. Oh, I see. Right. Okay. So here's a question. If this is a 2, what secret number is it touching? And the answer is no secret number, so that is 7, and that's brilliant. That's really brilliant, because that is going to do map things to the loop now, because now these two are the same polarity, so we can't dip down and wander there. We have to close with alacrity. We have to just draw the loop there. That's the loop. Hopefully this now works. That's not on the loop. These are not on the loop. Oh, good grief! It's the same again. So the way this is a deadly pattern on 1s and 2s. So by which I mean there's nothing to tell us the order of these ones and twos. This little sort of swallow, that's what it looks like to me, a bird on the wing. But this pattern, imagine that this was the 2 in box 2. Again, orthogonally it's not touching 5 or 4, so this must be the 1. This is the 2, this is the 1, 1, 2, and that's a 2, and now that 2 actually touches 2 of the secret digits, and I think that must be the correct solution. Yes. Very few people have solved it. Do I love the puzzle? I certainly do. These whispers carry no secrets for you, cause, I suspect. These secrets you already knew. Okay, I did know the secret. Don't shout them from the highest steeple. Only whisper them to your favourite people. Oh, I see. I only do tell them to my favourite people. And I tell you what, shadow-nexus, you are definitely one of my favourite people. That was wonderful, wasn't it? That was absolutely wonderful. I mean, it's a fairly odd rule set, if we're honest. But the way that the logic flowed out of the strange rule set, this is a great example of a puzzle that deserves a long rule set. I.e., the rules, they may be long, but they allow a sort of miraculous presentation of the puzzle with just the 45 and the green cell. And they result in a beautiful solving experience. So, you know, the fact that the rules are long is fine. It's absolutely adequately paid off. Yeah, that's brilliant. That really is. Loved it. Let me know in the comments how you got on. I enjoy the comments, especially when they're kind. And we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.